San Caro. And today was the blue moon. You want us to come back a couple inches? Like that? Okay. How's that?
Well, good morning, everyone. This is quite a different setup for us today. This is an online service only, as many of you have learned and have tuned in, and so we are so grateful that you are tuning in with us. We know we are always connected in spirit, so here we are in connection with one another in a different way. This virus, as we are so good with at Unity, of finding the silver lining, there's some silver linings here. And one of them is this is an opportunity for us to deepen our own practices, to deepen our affirmative prayer, to really be in that place of wholeness and health, divine order, peace. All those things are a great benefit to our greater community. So we miss you here today. You can see it's pretty empty, but we also are so glad that you are connecting with us. We're really practicing our core values. We're using wisdom. Our leadership team here is using wisdom to the best of our ability to follow what our healthcare professionals are suggesting. We're using, of course, love always as the base. We are in service to our wider community to help get this virus under control. And, of course, we are always in connection. So here we are in a new format, continuing with our Many Paths to the One series, today focused on Judaism. So I think you're really going to enjoy what we've put together today. I want to give a special thanks to our production team and our video team who is sitting with us today, but that's it. So thanks so much for being with us. We really hope you enjoy our new online format and stay with us. I'd like to also introduce Reverend Richard Carlini, who's already here. Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Richard is a Unity minister, and he's also the regional chaplain, prayer chaplain for all of us. So how wonderful that you're here, and you're here for a special reason. Tell us why.
Well, first I wanted to welcome everybody from the West Central region of Unity Churches and Unity Worldwide Headquarters and Unity Worldwide Ministries, and know that we are all connected through the divinity in each of us and praying together. And I also want to welcome Unity Center of Davis congregation, who is joining us for this live stream service this morning. So welcome, Unity Center of Davis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us, Reverend Rich. All right, and we're going to begin our service as we usually do with some beautiful music, so please enjoy.
This is a piece that comes from the first verse of Psalm 95. Let us sing out to God and shout joyfully to the rock of our salvation. There will be both English and Hebrew in here, so join along if you like, otherwise just listen. Ranana, yai lai 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 la Adonai, lai 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 Daria, lai 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 Letzuri sheinu, yai lai 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 lai. Let us sing out to God, the maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear our song. Lechu neranena, lai 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 la Adonai, lai 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 Naria, lai 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 Letzuri sheinu, lai 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 lai. For all of the wonders and all of God's light we rejoice. So now let us listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. Lechu neranena, lai 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 la Adonai, lai 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 Naharia, lai 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 lie, 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 lie.
Good morning. My name is Carl Jansen, and we're so glad to have all of you with us. It does seem unusual to not have the big audience here together, and all of us that love our time together being here. But I know you can feel it through the internet, if you will, through the wavelengths. We're all together in this, and we're all pulling for each other and with each other. So thanks for being with us. I want to thank Lisa and Joel for leading us in that great song, and they were accompanied by Dave, Brian, and Larry. I'm pleased to introduce our guest artist, who is Joel Siegel. Joel has been active in the Bay Area music scene and Jewish community since 1990. He is a sought-after leader, prayer leader, and Jewish educator. Joel has served on the staff and lay worship leadership of several area synagogues, Jewish day schools, and summer camps, and has led worship and song from Marin County to Palo Alto and from Walnut Creek to San Francisco. Joel is currently a service leader at Congregation Nedavot Shalom in Berkeley. Joel, welcome to Unity of Walnut Creek. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. Our vision for the world is we envision a spiritually awakened world where all life thrives in conscious oneness. Our mission is who we have come here to be. So let's say this together. We are a loving, inclusive community, expanding and living our divinity in sacred service for all. And our core values are love, connection, service, and wisdom. And now I invite you to join with me in affirming our statement of faith. So let's all together take a nice deep breath, just settle in. And let's do that one more time. Just nice deep breath. Let it go. And now together, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. If you are with us for the first time, welcome. You're invited to fill out a connection card. The connection cards are available for everyone on the Go Live page. You may submit a prayer request, and our prayer team will pray with you throughout the week. You may also share feedback or request information. There would have been some announcements, so the announcements are mostly changes and cancellations. So here they are. The class Applying Dr. Joel Dispenza's Tools with Tracy Appleton is canceled for now and will be rescheduled. And the Me Too, We Together workshop, which I was looking forward to, originally scheduled for March 29th, has also been canceled but will be rescheduled. And Cut Through with Pam Austin, that was scheduled for this Wednesday, is also canceled. The Spiritual Growth Discussion Circle is canceled for this Tuesday, but so far it's just this Tuesday only. There are a number of people who weren't going to be here prior to all that happened last week, so that ideally we'll reconvene the following Tuesday. And Laura Mallory's Thursday class has also been canceled. All other regular classes and groups of under 50 people are in session at this time. If you are not receiving our Centerpoint newsletter, and you're really going to want it now, weekly e-news or emails, please check your spam folder and use the connection card link on the Watch Live page to sign up and stay informed. Also check our website and homepage for updates. And now I'd like to request Reverend Kristen to come to the platform.
So I want to tell you all about the Labyrinth. You know that we've had this Labyrinth project going, and we actually started on Friday. We got things lined out a little bit. We began to play with the space and cleaned up the work site from phases 1 and 2. So things are moving ahead. The rain has slowed us down a little bit, but we're not so worried about that because we have plenty of time. The Labyrinth Brick fundraiser is going really well, so thank you so much for your abundant gifts and your generosity. We now have almost halfway to our goal. We're at about $3,500, a little bit more, and our whole goal is $8,000. So during the week, you can come in during our business hours, our bookstore hours, so that's Monday through Friday, 10 to 3 o'clock. And a bookstore person or an office, probably Felicia McBarton, can help you out with purchasing any bricks that you might want to purchase. And even if you want to just stop by to have a little connection time, we're welcoming you to come. At these smaller groups, as Carl mentioned, our classes and our smaller groups are still meeting, and we're just practicing social distancing when we get together to really, again, be of service to our wider community. So it feels a little heavy right now, but actually, you know, nothing has changed for all of us. You know, we have all the goodness in our lives and all the gratitude and all the blessings. So let's stay positive through the changes. And this is an opportunity for us here today to be creative with our technology and our capability. So this is kind of fun in a way. So I hope that translates for you on camera. All right, so we have a video I want to show you about the labyrinth that our dear friend behind the camera today, Sherry Dyer, made for us. So let's take a look at this to get a little sense about what is the labyrinth and why are we doing this anyway. Big thanks again to Sherry Dyer for creating that video. And yeah. And as you saw probably on the last caption, she reminds us that we're going to write blessings on those bricks. Many of them have already been blessed. So when you purchase bricks, you can write blessings on them and prayers, and those will actually build our labyrinth from underneath. So beautiful thing that we're doing together as a community. So now is our time for meditation, and as always, we're going to begin with a little bit of music, followed by some guidance and silence.
Psalm 89, verse 3, music and English words by Rabbi Menachem Creditor. Olam chesed yibane, tiridai, radai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibane, tiridai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibane, Olam chesed yibane, I will build this world from love, and you must build this world from love. And if we build this world from love, Yadadai. Then God will build this world from love. Tididai, dadai, dadadai. Olam chesed yibane. 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 Tididai, dadai, yadadai.
So I invite you to take a nice deep breath. Breathing in the beauty of the music we've just received. Letting that message really take hold. It is love that builds this world. It is love that builds these body temples. It is love that built this sanctuary where we sit. Whatever it is that we are creating or shaping, it is really being created or shaped through us, as us, co-creating the kind of world that truly works for all. And to get there, to those places of action and co-creation, we first get still and tune in to the presence of love. Love that sustains us, love that creates us, love that regenerates every cell in our body, allows the thoughts to arise in our mind that align with the divine. And helps us to move toward those lighter, brighter emotions, things like joy and gratitude. And so we take a moment just to rest in the presence of love. Allow the building, the creating to happen on its own. As every cell in our body is rejuvenated in love, healthy and whole. And that love connects us heart to heart all around the world now. An entire world focused on the same problem and the same solution. Let love be our guide. Let love be the place where we rest now in the silence. And so as we prepare to move from rest to action, love is the continuum. We ourselves, love in action, love in thought and word and deed, acting with love for the greater good. Thank you, God, for the constant guidance and for the beauty of this essence of all that connects us, love. With this, we build the world we wish to live in, and so it is.
I will build this world from love. And you must build this world from love. And if we build this world from love, and God will build this world from love. A Jewish evening prayer. Let us lie down, O God, in peace, and raise us up tomorrow morning to life renewed. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu Leshalom, Lehamidenu Shomreinu Lechayim, Ufros Aleinu Sukkah Shalom Echa. Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu Leshalom, Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu Leshalom, Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu
Peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace
peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Thank you, Lisa and Joel. That was beautiful, both of those songs. So during our message today, we have another opportunity to have a dialogue with somebody of the religion in which we are discussing as part of our Many Paths to the One series. Actually, this is, believe it or not, part 9 of 10. So we've been on this journey for a long time. Joel, if you'll join me. Yes. So Joel and I have gotten to know each other a little bit by email and phone, but really nice to meet you in person today. And we are so grateful not only for the beautiful music you're sharing with us today, but also in sharing with us in the message and telling us a little bit about your journey as somebody. Joel has, as Carl mentioned earlier, he's been really involved in the Bay Area in music for a long time, but he's also been you've also been a Jewish leader in many ways with camps and many of the synagogues in the area. So Lisa and Tyler noticed that as they were speaking to him and planning music. They said, this guy's really knowledgeable. You might talk to him about the message. So that's how this happened, by the way. I don't know if you knew all that.
No, I didn't.
So anyway, we are very honored to have you, all that to say that. And I'd love to hear, because I heard when we were speaking such a passion for your religious path and your spiritual practices. And so I'm curious, what's the heart of that for you? What's the heart of Judaism for you? And what is it that really hooks you and allows you to stay the course? It's a lot. It's a lot packed into one.
Yeah, so many things.
We'll just go for the big one right away.
I think some of it runs in my blood. Half of my family came to this country as missionaries, not as Jewish missionaries, as Lutheran missionaries. And just seems to run in my blood as much as I have tried to run away from it at times. It keeps pursuing me, and the Jewish path is home. I first put on a guitar and played music in a Jewish service, I think at the morning of my bar mitzvah. I think we're going to talk about that later. And even though there was a time when I was really rather frustrated with the messages of the ancient texts, with all their problematic aspects, frankly, it was still home, and I came home, and it's home and family with all of the wonder and the joy, as well as the tsuris. I'm going to probably pepper my talk with a few Yiddish words. Tsuris is troubles, for lack of a better translation. That comes with that, rocks in the farm. The heart of Judaism, I think, to me, is a combination of bringing holiness and justice to the world. The prophets were really clear that you cannot have holiness without justice. But the part that brings the holiness, in addition to living out the ethical teachings of the Torah and the prophets, the other piece of it is the practices that are uniquely Jewish. Practicing the Sabbath, refraining from work, prayer and study, mindful eating, which is keeping kosher or some form of that, practice of the holidays, and so on. Those are the things which help mend the world, according to Jewish tradition.
Beautiful. So those are some of the ways that you are an observant Jew, in other words, by following some of those practices. And we'll go a little bit deeper into the practices, as much as we can in our time together. But I am curious, too, just from more of an external standpoint, like the hat that you're wearing, some of the other clothing and accoutrements, if you will, that come with the tradition. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Judaism is very physical. And I think it's something which is lost. I think we're not well understood. I think we get often pigeonholed as being a very intellectual tradition, which is also true. Do a lot of studying, a lot of arguing. The Talmud, this great compendium of hundreds of years of Jewish law and practice, contains both majority and minority opinions, and people argue back and forth at the same table and over generations. So the intellectual stuff is there, but the physical practice is really what touches me so much. We do wear distinctive clothing primarily to bring to ourselves an awareness of God's presence. Covering our heads is one way to do that. The kippah, or the yarmulke in Yiddish, is a customary way of doing that, but depending on where one falls within the Jewish spectrum, you see all different kinds of hats and head coverings. Sometimes it will denote which particular subsect. There are some very, very hardline traditional sects also, and the headgear will even sort of be a display of.
Tip you off as to which one it is.
Yeah, it's our colors, you know. Some Jews, there's a commandment in the book of Numbers: put fringes on the corners of your garments so that you may look at them and always be reminded of the mitzvot. I should probably explain the word mitzvot a little bit. Charges, commandments, precepts, duties, so many Hebrew words are very hard to translate. Commandments is probably the most common. I think of them more as precepts and as charges. So we have ways of reminding ourselves of that. This is what I'm unfolding here is called a talit, a prayer shawl, and I don't know if the camera is able to zoom in on one of these things. This is called a tzitzit. The plural is tzitziot. It's the Jewish catalog of the 1970s called this ritual macrame. These knots are wound in a specific way, a numerological way, to remind us of the total catalog of the precepts, which comes in traditional Judaism to 613. We don't have 10 commandments, we have 613. Not all of them apply in all places. A lot of them apply only in the Holy Land, and some apply only inside the Jerusalem temple. So there are many, we regulate our behavior, our daily doings as part of the practice, and people who are familiar, for example, perhaps with a Buddhist path or a yogic path can, I think, recognize that we're bound to act as much as we can to keep us mindful of God and of our place in the world. Some people will actually wear, it's only on four-cornered garments that these things show up, and some people will actually wear, I don't do this, a four-cornered undergarment that has these fringes on them. Other people just put this on when they are praying in the morning. So that is one item. I have here.
And Joel,
Yeah.
do you hold those like you would, say, a mala or a rosary, or is it just to have them on you so that you're in remembrance?
The time when we hold them is during the recitation of the Shema. The Shema is called the watchword of the Jewish faith. It's Deuteronomy chapter 6. Hear, O Israel, the Lord, or Yud He Vav He, this unpronounceable name that we don't pronounce. Our God, Adonai, Yud He Vav He, is one. So it's customary when saying that in the morning when you're wearing the shawl to gather them in your hand, hold them. I hold them close to my heart. And then that's 3 paragraphs of text. The third paragraph, which is the paragraph that actually says put those fringes on, one looks at them, holds them in both hands and looks at them. Other times, then you kind of hang on to it for a while and gradually release them.
Interesting. What else do you have there for us?
What else
in
have
your
I?
goodie bag?
In my blue bag, these are called tefillin. Again, in ancient times, some people wore these all day. But one is supposed to be in a state of holiness, of mind as well, and being, in order to wear them. And there was a realization that most of us aren't in that place all day and can't be in that place all day. Not only that, it kind of makes it hard for you to do a lot of work. I'm not going to unwrap it all the way, but you see there's a box and there's leather straps. Inside the box are pieces of parchment that contain scriptural verses, the Shema that I just mentioned, and the words that follow: you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might. And that goes on for a few more sentences. And 3 or 4 other sections out of the Torah are encased in these, and we wear them. This one actually goes on my non-dominant hand, and then I wind the straps around my arm in a particular ritual way, and I make the three letters of one of the names of God. Sorry.
That's okay. If I can help you.
Here, I will hand this off to you.
Okay.
And then the other one, again, that same paragraph that begins with Hear, O Israel, says, bind them as a sign on your hand. Right, so we concretize that. It's both abstract and concrete, right? We do these things that are physical, so you can feel it in your body. And let them be a symbol, or totafot, nobody knows what that word means, frontlets, something, between your eyes. And this is, I would have a headband on if I were really wearing these, and 2 straps dangling down. It's only typically...
I'm just going to try it, see how it would feel.
Yeah, it's typically worn in morning prayer. You know where your third eye is, right?
Yeah.
It's typically worn only in morning prayer. And, you walk around for a while with these little, indentations in your arm, and it feels weird at first, but once I started doing it regularly, it feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
It has,
See that. Having that physical reminder, it's like ritual, right? We love to do ritual because it reminds us of the spiritual practices that, and it allows us to bring the invisible visible.
Right, and there's a ton of that. There's we build a ritual building in the fall at Sukkot, which is my favorite holiday. We say there's a practice of saying 100 blessings every day. I haven't gotten to that stage yet, but there's even a blessing for using the bathroom.
Wow.
We thank God for the healthy functioning of our bodies. We do this, by the way, after we leave the bathroom. The bathroom is not a place where one says prayers, but upon leaving, you thank God for the proper functioning of your body.
These days, while washing your hands.
Yeah, right? There's a blessing for that,
we're
too.
Singing songs of blessing, aren't we, Lisa?
Yeah.
God is my source, for those of you who haven't heard yet.
Before anything goes in my mouth, if I'm on the path, I will say some short blessing of gratitude. When I'm done eating or drinking whatever it is, there's another blessing. So if you're really on the path, there's this constant reminder of the presence of God in the world and of our duty to bring God more fully into the world through both holiness and, as I said, and justice. Caring for the stranger, caring for the poor. The Torah says probably 36 times is the number I've heard, do not oppress the stranger because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. We mark every holiday with wine or grape juice as well as a festive meal. Shabbat we begin by lighting candles, and we end by lighting a candle. I brought this because I thought of it as I was doing this last night at the end of Shabbat. We light another flame, this twisted braided candle. It's a very short, sweet service called Havdalah. We light a flame because over Shabbat, traditionally one does not interact with flame. If you start a fire before Shabbat, it can stay on, but it has to be untouched. There's a ton of rules. We can talk about the rules some more because I think they're kind of important. But when you end Shabbat, you physically light a fire, which you have not done for 24 hours. It's more than one flame, and it's typically a braided candle like this. And we also smell spices because there is a tradition that on Shabbat, you receive an extra soul to enjoy Shabbat on. And even as rigorous as the practice is in terms of abstention from all kinds of different activities, it is to be observed not as a burden, right, but as a joy, or maybe a little bit of both.
You said you receive an extra soul?
That's the tradition, yes.
Tell us, what does that mean? Do we know what that
I
means?
wish I knew.
I know, the soul. That's always
Yeah,
a question,
right,
isn't it? It's a deep discussion.
Yeah, it's based often on readings of biblical texts. There's one line that actually we read in the Torah yesterday, that God, upon completing the work of creation, shavat vayinafash, ceased and was refreshed, and that vayinafash in Hebrew contains within it one of the Hebrew words for a soul. So it's almost as if God's self was being resouled, and we are also, in that image.
It's part of the renewal process or the rebirthing process,
you could call it
you
that,
could say, in a way. So each week to practice Shabbat is giving you that complete renewal.
Yes, and many people don't practice Shabbat or have different levels. I'm not by any means where I fully want to be in my practice, but it's an unplugging. I don't touch my computer, I don't touch my phone, I don't write. I do allow myself to drive, which in Orthodoxy one would not do. And it is a time to be hands-off with the world. Instead of exercising dominion and control, creating and destroying, as God did for 6 days biblically, we, again, imitating God, don't do any of that. The world is, we're kind of hands-off. We are there to observe it, be in it, enjoy it, and let it do its own thing. And then, boy, does the world need that right now.
Yeah, it is such a beautiful practice. I have Jewish friends who have really brought that out to wider audiences, and people have started practicing this idea of, I'm going to unplug from sunset to sunset, whether it's Friday to Saturday as it is traditionally in Judaism, or if it's just something you choose the day that works best for you. But this idea of being unplugged, of being in maybe community, I don't know, what is yours like? Because for some people it might be in quiet time, for others it's being with family, maybe having a meal, having a service at sunset. So tell us a little bit more about your practice.
It can be all of the above. Jewish prayer practice is primarily communal. You cannot do a full service without 10 adult Jews in the room. You don't need a rabbi or a cantor. Judaism is very democratic that way. You need one person who has enough knowledge of the service to be able to get up and recite the words of the liturgy, and it is a liturgy. There's a set catalog of things that you say, as well as personal, creative stuff that comes from within you each time. So traditionally, Jews gather 3 times a day, every day. It's not really different on Shabbat, except things because there's a little bit more time, it takes a little bit longer. There's a service right around sunset time, going into the nighttime. The major service on the Sabbath is in the morning. The Torah is taken out and read. It's a longer, more relaxed service than during the week. And then there's a service in the mid to late afternoon. As I say, it's communal, but especially, I've been getting all these emails because of the situation we're in health-wise, giving pointers for people on how to pray at home. There are a few things that one does not say if you're not in that community of 10. You skip those parts, but everything else you can do at home. And for me, it's a mix. I like being at home sometimes, staying out of my car if I don't have to be any place. I do a fair amount of service leading, and that involves travel to most of the synagogues. I go to my own synagogue is close to 1 hour's walk away. If I'm feeling up to it, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'll drive. And some days it's communal for me, and some days it's a more, solo practice.
Well, it was interesting because Joel and I were emailing a little bit on Friday, and I said, I'll send you some questions later. We're doing something with the labyrinth, if that's okay. And he said, yeah, that's fine, but Shabbat starts at sunset. And so I was racing to get this stuff to you by sunset. And then afterwards, yesterday evening, he sent me all these new thoughts. And I thought, this is how I feel after I've been on retreat, is that I have this complete renewal and just this rush of new thoughts and ideas. And I don't know, is that common for you, that's kind of, you draw this new inspiration, this renewal, this new soul, if you will, or being resouled in a way. Does that happen for you each week,
does.
Typically?
More on some weeks than others. Obviously,
Yes,
this is on my mind.
Always.
Very much on my mind. And the main thought, because part of the practice is not writing, no permanent recording of information. It's like, okay, I hope I remember this. But when the sun goes down, I hope I'll still remember it and be able to write it down.
Well, for those of us who tend to be more intellectual, that's really wonderful, right? To not have the written word, not be focused on the written word so much.
We do have the written word because we read a lot.
You do read a lot.
We read, but it's the writing down of the information. Maybe if there's time, and I'm counting on you to keep us on time here.
Oh, great.
I'll
count on Annie.
How many hours do you have?
No, we're good.
Where do we get the rules for Shabbat? Where do those come from? There are specific activities that are forbidden on Shabbat. Where do they come from? There are 39 categories of work, and according to the rabbis, these were the 39 categories of task or work that were involved in the building of the tabernacle, this portable sanctuary in the desert. The portable sanctuary was to be a microcosm of the universe. Right, holy within holy, and the holiest furthest inside. And it was also the conduit, the connection between heaven and earth. It was, according to the Torah, the holiest work that the Israelites in the desert could do. Everybody brought gifts. We actually have been reading about that as well, and we're going to continue doing that. People brought gifts until Moses said, stop, you've brought too much. And it was this tremendous holy work, but every single time there's instructions on what to do and how to fit this together with that and what color to make it and where to put the bells and the pomegranates and the golden chains and this sumptuous stuff. There's always admonition, observe Shabbat. Don't do any work on Shabbat. So the connection was made between the creation of the tabernacle and not doing that work on Shabbat. There are language connections between reading about, when we read about how the tabernacle was finished, the language is very similar in the Hebrew to the world being finished. So again, it's this human activity as a microcosm of divine activity. So we stop when God stops, or we stop when God stopped. And all of those different things, weaving and sewing and writing and erasing and shearing sheep and cooking and lighting fires and putting out fires and tying knots and untying knots, and all these things that were involved in the creation of this cosmic conduit are the things which we abstain from on Shabbat. So basically, we're not doing really any creation or destruction, just as God did.
I love that saying that you shared with me earlier, be still and get going.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same, isn't it? You know, we get, and most of us in our culture, we get going until, wow, I have to rest, I have a cold now.
Yes.
Instead of this,
Enforced Shabbat.
practice of be still, right? So the
Yeah.
practice of be still being woven in naturally as part of the rhythm that God gave us.
Right.
So it's beautiful that you adhere to this practice, and it sounds like it's really nourishing for you. And I want to encourage all of us to consider a way that we can make our own Shabbat, our own Sabbath day in our own ways, and try out this practice and see how it works for us, because it's got to be good. I know it's good when I do that kind of thing. So,
I don't know what
but
I
I
would
don't
do
do
without
it
it.
every week.
Yeah, at this
So,
point,
yeah.
I don't know what I'd do without it.
Yeah.
I really don't. It's been a part of my life now for 10, 12 years. And
And in our world today, I think we need it more than ever. It's just everything's so fast moving. So beautiful practice. Well, you mentioned earlier the idea that's connected to commandment, the mitzvah,
mitzvah, yeah.
And-
mitzvah, single, mitzvah, plural.
and then it becomes, it's also used, a similar word is used for bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, which you mentioned you went through when you were
Yes.
coming of age.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always intrigued by that, because our culture as a whole doesn't really have a lot of ritual around coming of age, and yet it's so important, that passage between childhood and adulthood. Can you say a little bit about that, the bar mitzvah or the bat mitzvah?
It's funny, I've had many students kids who are on their path to bar bat mitzvah, and many of them after their service have their non-Jewish friends coming up and saying, I want to have one too. There are, of course, traditional cultures have these coming of age rituals. In many Christian traditions have confirmations. There's the quinceañera in Latin American culture. Many others that I'm not aware of. For Jews, it marks the transition to Jewish adulthood. Obviously not full adulthood, although 1,000 years ago plus, you were pretty close to getting married when you were 13, 14, in many cases. So at a certain age, it's really just like turning 18. One day, the day before your 18th birthday, you cannot vote, even if the election is there. You cannot sign a legal document without your parents signing off on it. The day after, you can. You have a whole new set of privileges, rights, as well as obligations to society. That happens to a Jew on the day after their 13th birthday. In some traditions for girls, it's the day after the 12th birthday, when you yourself become responsible for the performance of all these precepts. The day before that, it was your parents' responsibility. Now, it's on you. And really, the ceremony doesn't do anything to you. I would have, if I'd never gone through a ceremony, I would have still been a bar mitzvah. The literal words are son of the commandments, but what it really means is become subject to the commandments. Bar mitzvah for a boy, bat mitzvah for a girl. The commandments are now, or the precepts are now incumbent upon you. The service marks that transition. It is a way of honoring this new adult in the community, and they are given an honor which is reserved only for adults, which is to go up and read from the Torah. that gets complicated because typically one has an agent to do one's reading for one. And then, the Jewish adult has the privilege of leading a service, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. In ancient times, when we lived in much closer-knit communities and everybody knew each other and you saw each other in synagogue, that was pretty much all that happened. The boy, and at that time it would be only a boy, would get their chance to go up and have that section of the Torah read. And there might be, a little bit of food and drink afterwards because we always do that.
Right. We humans.
Yes, we humans, we Jews, nothing, always, there's always going to be food. In modern times, because I think we live a little bit more distantly and because people are less affiliated, we start demanding more. We want the young people to show a little bit more about their knowledge and their ability to function in an adult Jewish community. So in some ways, there's more pressure on them now. I've always tried to tell my students, look, this is what a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah really is. It's what I just explained. You can't screw this up, right? This is going to happen whether you mess up every single word of what you're supposed to do or whether you do it perfectly. And I also try to tell them messing up is fine. I do it all the time, and everybody out there loves you. Because there can be tremendous anxiety and stress around having to do these things in a foreign language. And well, I used to say in some traditional cultures they might send you out, with a spear and a bag of salt, and have you, go hunt down a lion or something like that. We make you sing in front of 200 people while your voice is changing, which can be, I think, worse.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever hunted down a lion myself.
Right. Well, it's something that I really appreciate, that there is some kind of ritual, and as many of you know, I'm sort of personally very drawn to the nature and the indigenous rituals, and so some of those kinds of ways of initiating yourself by going out in nature and having solo time in nature is another way. So there are many different ways, but the fact that it has remained a tradition, to me, feels like a real gift to our young people and to our society, that we honor this important passage from childhood to adulthood for the reasons that you mentioned. So thanks for spending a little time on that topic.
Of course.
There's one other one, well, there's probably many others, but there's something that you had mentioned to me that I found very intriguing that I didn't know about, and this idea of building, or sukkah, I think you called it.
Okay, yes.
Will you talk a little bit about that and how it's related to mindful eating? Because I think you mentioned there's also some aspect of it about the huts and the eating.
So the mindful eating I would classify as keeping kosher or some version of it,
Okay.
which again involves there's a lot of discussion in the Torah about what critters you can eat and what critters you can't. And then there is the precept, do not boil a kid in its mother's milk, which has been extended to the point where Jews do not have dairy products and meat products at the same meal, which meat does not include fish, but it does include poultry. And many Jews, including myself, I'm basically pescatarian. So as long as I avoid shellfish, and eat only the kosher species of fish that have fins and scales, then I don't need to worry about the whole mixing of dairy thing. So it's in some ways my mindful eating is more of a pescatarian vegetarian practice. The building of the sukkah, you do eat in it. So this would be called in Christian tradition Feast of Tabernacles. It's in the fall. It coincides with a fall harvest festival and probably arose out of a pagan fall harvest festival, as so many traditions have, ancient Canaanite or something like that. And biblically, one builds these temporary structures. It's called a sukkah, which comes from a word meaning to cover over. My favorite Hebrew word, by the way, is schach.
Wow.
Yeah, and it has to be tree branches, something that has been alive. Actually, not the branches of a living tree, but palm fronds, very traditional. The roof of this sukkah, which comes from the same root as schach. You should be able to see through to the stars, and it should be natural, and it should be temporary, and it should give you this feeling of temporariness. I mean, if there's any holiday that brings Jews into contact with the Buddhist idea of everything being temporary, it's Sukkot. It's the most joyous time of the year. It's called the festival. The synagogue interior, if you're in a traditional setting, is gorgeous because, again, there's a commandment. You're supposed to bring in 4 different plant species: palm fronds, willow branches, what's the other one? Aravot. It's in Hebrew. Willow, myrtle, palm, and a funny-looking fruit that looks like a lemon but isn't. It's called an etrog or a citron. And you take them out, and all of a sudden the floor of the synagogue is a holy mess, literally, with fronds and leaves everywhere, and people are standing up and they're waving them back and forth like this and like that at different parts and circling around the synagogue, and it's gorgeous. At the same time, what do we read as a special scroll at this time of year? Ecclesiastes. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity. It's all temporary. There's this mixture of complete joy. The harvest is in. God's been good to us. We're celebrating. We've cleansed ourselves of sin on Yom Kippur just 4 days prior. In the old days, they would have cleaned out the temple. And really, Yom Kippur was just the house cleaning before the big party, which is what Sukkot was. And then we live in these huts, and we're reminded of how vulnerable we are and how temporary everything is.
And then the huts are individual huts outdoors?
Outdoors, yes.
Yes,
I don't have a place in my home where I can build one, so I help others build them, and then I go hang out in them for the week.
Beautiful. Well, it's a whole week.
It's a full week, yep.
Okay. And you'd be in community, but you'd still have, are you all in community in the huts, or are they individual huts?
Yeah, both.
Both.
You can be by yourself, you can have 2 people in there, you can have 20 or 30.
It's kind of like a hermitage, but communal style.
Yes.
Really
Communal
interesting.
hermitage.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I hadn't even heard about that before, so I don't know if some of you have or haven't, but
It's back to the physicality, right? So, we've got the straps, we've got the boxes, we've got the fringes, we've got the palm fronds and the fruits and the nature and the huts, and it's very earth-centered and earth-based.
yeah. I was actually having a chat with somebody. We have an annual crab feed recently about ritual. And he was telling me, originally I thought ritual was just such an empty thing. And then something big happened in my life. I think his mother had passed away. And he came back into the ritual of his religious practice. And it became alive for him again, So when we talk about it and you just hear it in a flat way, oh, you do this and you put this box on, you think, oh, well, why would you do all that? But when I hear you speak of it with the passion that you're speaking of and the meaning behind it, it comes alive and I get it.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It's
fun.
it's fun.
It's fun. It's
really
bringing the joy into our spiritual practice, right?
Kids love ritual, and they're smart.
Yeah.
Right? Kids are smart about this. They want that familiarity, that comfort. I mentioned we're a liturgical tradition. We say pretty much the same words every day with some variation if it's Shabbat or a holiday. But that becomes a meditation. It's an extended meditation. You can really go deep by just, you get familiar enough with the words, you can close your eyes, and it's a source of really great comfort.
Mm-hmm. It's also including the physical in our spiritual experience. So in our traditions of Judaism and the Abrahamic traditions, let's say, it's very physical, in a way, that we are not about just transcending the body, but very much being, and especially Judaism, I think, very much being in the world, in the body, and experiencing our spirituality in that embodied form, not separating the two.
There are many pleasures that are forbidden in Judaism. Pork chops being perhaps one example, or clams. But there's a saying that you will be held to account in the world to come, in the hereafter, for any permitted pleasure that you did not take part of, that you did not partake of.
I love it. I'm going to need to learn more about Judaism. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So there were a couple other things that you said that I just want to make sure that we touch on. So let me. One of it, we have talked a little bit about joy, and so let's just touch on that one more time, because this seems like such an important part of Judaism, that things are done through the power of joy and because of joy and bringing forth the joy. And I think that's important because we know that the Jewish people have had so much sadness in the history of the culture and of the people. So tell us a little bit about the importance of joy.
So I learned a lot about this from Rabbi Shalom Bachner. He's rabbi at a congregation in Modesto, and still a member of my congregation, Nativot Shalom in Berkeley as well. there is this stereotype, and it's not inaccurate about, Jews, oi, 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 right? The joke about the server who comes up to a Jewish couple in a restaurant and says, "Is anything all right?" And there is sadness, the sadness that comes from history. There is a day in the middle of summer, the 9th day of Av, when we go deep, deep, deep into the sadness, which is also important, right? We fast, we sit on the floor, we don't wash. We really get into the grief of the calamities and the destructions that have befallen us over history. And there are certain things. Orthodox Jews do not use musical instruments in synagogue. Why? Because they were used in the ancient temple, and the ancient temple is gone. So we do not try to be that, and we are always in a semi-mourning in that way, in a traditional sense. At the same time, the performance of the mitzvot, again, it can appear burdensome. And sometimes it is burdensome, but the idea is, the practice is to bring joy to that. And I'm lucky to be in many communities where we acknowledge and revel in the fun of it. I keep coming back to Sukkot. It's my favorite morning of the year, is the first morning of Sukkot, when you might have slept in that sukkah and not slept very well, but you watch the moon cross over the sky through the semi-transparent roof of the sukkah, and then you bring all your plant stuff into the synagogue and march around. What was I talking about? Joy, right. Mixing the sadness with the joy. 7 weeks after that, very, very down. First of all, only 6 days after is the 15th day of Av, when people used to go out in the fields and meet their mates, meet their potential partners, wives, husbands, etc. And then you're on this now 7-week path to the Jewish New Year. There's again a line in Torah that says, it's actually, there's a couple spots in the Torah where God says, if you do all these things, I'll bless you and things will be good. And there's this long part about if you don't, I'm going to whack you with all kinds of plagues and nastiness. And one of those times says, and all because you did not serve Adonai your God with joy. Wow. So the last thing I will say about that is that there's a Talmudic, getting back to this compendium of Jewish law, there's a saying, when the month of Adar, we're actually in the month of Adar now, the Jewish month of Adar. It's the holiday, it's the month when the festive holiday of Purim happens, which is one of the times when the theme is, as we often say, they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. And Purim is very much like that. It's from if you read the book of Esther, right? It's the story of Esther and Mordecai and Haman and the king, right? And Haman wanted to get rid of all the Jews, wanted to kill all of them, and by mysterious ways, the word God never appears in that book, but the mysteries of God's working behind the scenes are what we're supposed to get out of that. When Adar, when that month comes in, the Talmud says we increase our joy. Marbin b'simcha. When the month of Av comes in, Av being the day that it has the month with the 9th day when everybody's depressed and mourning all the destructions, calamities, we decrease our joy. It does not say we increase our sorrow. It says we decrease our joy. The joy is still there. Still a little bit less of it, but still there, even down in the depths. Yeah. Yom Kippur is also thought of as being a very solemn day. We're repenting and confessing our sins. That's true, but it's also the day when we are cleansed. And we are joyful in that day of cleansing and coming out the other side of it and getting ready for the big party in 6 days.
I love that. I love the beauty and the balance of all that you just shared with us. And I hope our viewers are really enjoying this too. There's one last phrase that you shared with me that I think will be a nice place for us to close. And that is this idea of doing justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly. It's really kind of a short phrase that I think summarizes a lot of Judaism. And so we typically end our messages with speaking an affirmation together. So I'm going to invite our online viewers to share this with us as our affirmation together today.
This is the prophet Micah, by the way, chapter 6, verse 8, if you want to look it up.
Thank you. Thanks for the reference. So together, let's say, I do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. And so it is. Thank you so much for sharing your message with us, Joel.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
we have some
everybody.
more music coming up from Joel and Lisa.
Joel and Kristen, thank you so much for that. Joel, I would like to have the list of the permitted pleasures so that I make sure I cover them all before I go. Thank you. Thank you. And the whole thing on joy at the end was that was really interesting. I really enjoyed that a lot. So whether you have a joy or a concern on your heart today, our prayer chaplains are available to provide prayer support. Please complete a connection card on the Watch Live page or click the prayer request at the bottom of the home page. Our prayer team will be praying with you throughout the week. And now let's open our hearts to the practice of giving. And please remember, even though we aren't gathered in person, our community continues to thrive with your generosity. And we love that. Thank you. I invite you to prepare your gifts as we align with the universal law of circulation. As we give, we shall receive. Because in truth, there is no lack or limit. Abundance is our true nature. For your convenience, there are two ways to give financially online. You may click the donate button on the Watch Live page or download the Give app from Google Play or the Apple Store. And Give is spelled G-Y-V-E. We appreciate your continued support. Now I invite you to repeat our prosperity affirmation with me. Together, divine love, one with me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful. Thank you.
As with many traditions, the Jewish tradition has many prayers for peace. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, this is the last line of a very important piece of liturgy in Judaism known as the Kaddish. Not going to get into all the details about that because it's very, very deep, but it ends with these words, some of which are actually taken from the book of Job. May the one who makes peace on high bring peace down to all of us, on all Israel and all the world, and we say amen. This is that traditional text with some English words and music by Ilana Jagoda, who is a music leader at Peninsula Temple Beth El in San Mateo and many other places as well. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Bimromah. Oh, say shalom, bimromah. Hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Alleluia. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Bimromah. Oh, say shalom. Bimromah. Hu
yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Alleluia. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Oh, say shalom. Bim Rama. Bim Rama. Oh, say shalom. Oh, say shalom. Bim Rama. Bim Rama. Hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Alleluia. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down, bring peace down, bring peace down, bring peace down. Aleinu, al Yisrael, al Yishmael, al Ha'olam, on all of us, on Israel, on Ishmael, on all the world. Aleinu, al Yisrael, al Yishmael, al Ha'olam. Bring peace down, 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 bring peace down.
Thank you. That was beautiful. We've got our full band here. Were you dancing at home? I was dancing in my seat over here. So we're joining with you in the joy of that expression and for the beauty of this music. Thank you so much for sharing. And we want to bless our offering. So those that have given, we give thanks for your gifts. And as Carl said, we also give thanks for your mindfulness, that as we are not here in person, you might not be in the habit of giving online, but we sure hope that you'll keep in mind that all our regular expenses are still here and that we are a very prosperous center that continues to flow in that. So let's bless that gift that we have given together with this weekly blessing that we say together. We give thanks for the ever-increasing, constant flow of absolute good in our lives now. And we know that truth as we stay in the flow. So thank you so much. We are so grateful for you joining with us today. For, there's a modern day beatitude that I think is really timely for us. And it goes like this: Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. So let's go forth with that in mind throughout these days that are very different for us, but also give us a sense of freshness and newness and new ways of doing things. And we are going to keep looking at new ways of staying connected as a community until this whole thing is over. So let's close out in the way that we always do, with our prayer of protection and our peace song. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God ever present.
and the peace on earth right now. So let your light shine, have fun, and spread joy. So it is. We'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Now we're going to do our song we can do when we're doing hand washing to remind us God is our source inside us. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. Wash those hands. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need. One more time. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. Thank you. Bless you, Unity of Walnut Creek. We love you. Be well.
Yeah, virtual hug. In Jewish tradition, we say Yasher Koach.